No, it would be very bold of the show to kill off Enid.
We all need more Billie Piper. And more Billie Piper singing.
Yeah, that
maybe Tim Burton just loves her pop career like the rest of us.
There's still the Wednesday Enid shippers. There's still...
Yeah.
It could happen.
Welcome to Radio Times Ending Explained. I'm Lewis Knight, News and Trends Editor at Radio Times.
I'm Louise Griffin, Sci-Fi and Fantasy Editor at Radio Times.
And today we are here to unpack the ending of Wednesday Season 2, Part 1. Now, you should have watched it. If you haven't watched it and you care about spoilers, you probably should switch off for now and watch one of our other wonderful videos. But if you have, then obviously we need to unpack that massive cliffhanger to start off with. I mean, we just have to ask the question, is Wednesday really dead?
Well, I mean, they've teed it up a little bit, haven't they? We see her thrown from the upper floors of Willow Hill by Tyler as he's kind of set free. She's lying really bloodied on the floor. She's bleeding out, and she does in that narration talk about her final moments. So it's like there's a little bit of hinting here. I would be very surprised if she's dead. I think they're kind of leaving her very injured. I think the problem is she's been this close to death before. She was stabbed last season, but in those moments she had her spirit guide, Goody, to kind of sacrifice herself and save her and heal her. She's not around anymore, so Wednesday is completely on her own, which does make me a little bit scared. But yeah, I do think she's going to survive this, but I wonder if it's going to make her exercise a little bit more caution, because she's been very fearless up until now, kind of not facing any major consequences, and it feels like this is going to set her back a little bit.
Yeah, I imagine maybe she actually is dead. It's just whether she stays dead. I mean, Obviously it is fantasy. We already have a bunch of undead characters that have appeared in the series already. So, what if she has some kind of there's a resurrection spell or something that could happen? But also, like you mentioned, the spirit guide element. Obviously, it's been kind of teased that she's going to get a new spirit guide and it'll appear to her in their own time. But obviously, we don't know who that is yet. So that's kind of quite another factor. Also, we have the mysterious woman that she rescued, who we don't really see the face of for very clearly in the finale, the mid-season finale. We are kind of assuming it's Aphilia from.
Yeah, I think we spend a bit too long with that character for her not to be important. Aphilia's been very teed up. I would be very surprised if she kind of didn't appear throughout the rest of it and have I think she's going to have a big part to play, and I think this would be the perfect moment to introduce her. Obviously, Wednesday wouldn't recognise her because she's been missing for 20 years. It would completely make sense if all that time she's been in Willow Hill. We know she has been there before. Potentially she's just been there this whole time. And
it's really been teed up but she's she must be dead. We assume she's dead. She was missing, presumed dead. So we know that it's definitely going to be addressed. And we know that also she had magical powers.
The same powers as Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was kind of troubling her. And that was kind of why she had these problems and it overwhelmed her, which definitely explains why Morticia is so worried about Wednesday and what kind of dark elements she could be accessing and what that impact will be on her. So that's obviously straining their relationship. But obviously we do need to probably think about, we assume she might be quite a nice character. Could she potentially be a villainous character?
She could. I mean, she's clearly been worn down and tortured really inside Willow Hill. She says to Wednesday, doesn't she, if you're not here to kill me, go away. So she's clearly in a really troubled state. You can only imagine what that might do to her after she's been... Yeah. But then again, considering she's had the same troubles that Wednesday's had with her powers, maybe she could be the key to helping her to kind of reaccess those powers after she's been having that trouble this season.
Yeah, I think obviously we had the villain in the last series, Tyler, who obviously has come back this time, but we know that he was very quite sweet and a nice person to start off with, and somebody that Wednesday was really kind of involved with, and there was potential for romance. So would they kind of want to do another switch up, in the same vein? I don't know. That might feel a little bit repetitive if they kind of introduce this very sweet, troubled character, and then it turns out that she's villainous.
Yeah, but then a member of the family, that would be I quite like that as a bit of a betrayal.
Yeah, I don't know how well you know your Addams family lore, but is there much history with Aphilia?
think she's just been always sort of the sister, the more troubled sister. I do know that she was originally meant to marry Gomez.
Oh.
And that was changed at some point so that Morticia would marry Gomez. But yeah, maybe she's always felt like the lesser sister. I'm not sure.
That's an interesting
kind of inferior
that could be a
one.
dynamic to explore. But I suppose while we're on the subject of Tyler, obviously he's also been kept in the institution, and he's been a prisoner. He's essentially like a bit of a Hannibal Lecter character for these episodes, at least until he makes his big break for freedom in his Hyde form. How do you feel about the Tyler character, and where do you think he's going to go next?
I don't know where he's going to go next. I feel like his arc has almost been quite nicely wrapped up. So in the final moments of part 1, we do see him kind of confronting Christina Ricci's character, Laurel Gates, who had clearly manipulated, groomed him. She says, she thinks she's freed him, showed him his final form, if you will, and given him that gift. He says he agrees somewhat, but considering how much she's manipulated and groomed him, he says, I'll give you a 5-minute head start before I kill you then. Which he does, and chases her down, and yeah, we kind of are assuming she's dead now. We see that final shot of her after being stabbed by him. And that feels
with a terrible haircut.
Not great haircut. No, not keen on it.
Box job. I'm kind of glad that they wrapped that, at least that element up, because obviously that was the main component of the antagonists of the first season, was that relationship, and that was a bit of a mystery as well. Like, one, who was Laurel Gates and who was the Hyde, and that dynamic was resolved again. So it feels like it would have been a bit repetitive had Laurel still been on the loose. Tyler was on the loose. We were getting kind of a bit of the same old.
And he's had his revenge now. That final act of revenge. His, as we've seen earlier in the season, his father's now dead. There's not much left for him, I'm not sure, other than continually hunting down Wednesday. But I think she's shown time and time again that she's.
Yeah, I always wonder. I mean, obviously, he's done some very despicable things. He's basically a serial killer, but obviously there are a lot of despicable characters in the programme. So could he be redeemed? I don't know, because he's been, like you mentioned, that relationship with Laurel Gates. She groomed him over time and like preyed on his vulnerabilities. And also there were a lot of Tyler and Wednesday shippers. So I don't know whether. I mean, say how you feel. I mean, if you think that's a bit toxic, I mean, that's a little bit toxic. Maybe you could turn to the good side again.
I'm not sure. I think it would need a lot of work on his part, and I think that's more work than we can see in a few episodes.
A lot of work for the writers as well.
A lot of work for the writers. Yeah, I'm not sure how much he can be redeemed. I am glad he got that moment of revenge. I found that quite satisfying, but yeah, I'm not sure he can be redeemed. I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like if not, he needs to probably be like actually destroyed and killed off in this series. If not, otherwise, like, is he just going to be a recurring antagonist?
Yeah, I don't know how much more we can do with him. He's been a brilliant character, but I like that this series is bringing in kind of new elements, new villains.
Yeah, it's a shame because I feel like Hunter Doohan's quite a good actor, and he's good at doing the creepy stuff. So, like, if they want to keep him on the evil side, then at least we can enjoy that for hopefully only a little bit longer, though, before it gets a bit tired. But in terms of other antagonists, as you mentioned, this season we've been introduced to some new ones. The main one was obviously the mystery around who the avian was.
Yeah.
I was half expecting that to be a season-long mystery, but actually with the two-part element of the second season, actually it was quite nice that it was wrapped up in the first 4 episodes, at least in the mystery terms. Obviously, we don't know if the mysterious Judy is still alive and out there somewhere. I mean, we didn't see her die in that big...
Yeah, I think she's still out there. I think we see her afterwards kind of running away. So it
was very quick, though.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of her. Played by the iconic Heather Matarazzo from The Princess Diaries, which I absolutely loved.
We do have to speak about... We'll get to it later with all of the characters, but the castings for the second season have been especially great.
Flawless. I loved it.
It's just like a treasure trove of sort of like 90s noughties film horror icons, basically, just turning up. So that's quite fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you feel about the reveal of Judy and how that mystery was sort of handled.
I liked it. Obviously, Wednesday does like a rug pull, and that felt like very, very kind of that moment. It felt a bit reminiscent of Christina Rich's arc from season 1. But I didn't see it coming, to be honest. I enjoyed it. I think it made sense. I enjoyed the pacing of it, like you said. I think it would have got a bit long if it had carried on throughout the season. So I liked that that's wrapped up. And I think it is an interesting kind of way to go. The kind of experiments on the outcasts I think it makes sense as an arc.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where she goes from now, though, considering we've discovered her as this villain.
Yeah, and she's only a guest star, and as we mentioned, she's not an outcast, so it's there's not like a magical ability that's.
Well, she wasn't born one. She can control the birds now.
Yeah, that's the truth. But the birds clearly are playing a big part in kind of overall arc, so we imagine that she's going to at least pop up for the finale. Maybe.
I think she's got at least one more murder left in her.
she's got another appearance. But I suppose with the relationship with her boss, who's played by the magnificent Thandie Newton, obviously Thandie was very much a red herring.
Yeah,
I think like we all kind of were expecting something there. But in terms of the whole of the storyline, that kind of based in the institution, how did you feel about that?
I thought it was quite good. I think we were introduced to Willow Hill last season, and I think for a show like Wednesday, the institution, that as Fester calls it, the asylum, is such a place to kind of introduce all these interesting characters. Obviously, we see Fester kind of getting himself enrolled imprisoned back there, which he's clearly enjoying. Enjoyed that little bit of comedy from Fred Armisen.
His romance in there was quite
It's a nice little bit of levity, wasn't it?
I think there was the comedy actually this series has been in this season has been particularly strong, I feel like, because there's obviously an element, there's these very like creepy characters, there's dark, quite gruesome parts actually, which is interesting because tonally it does feel a little bit like a family show, despite the fact it's got these quite like dark, violent, cartoonish, gruesome bits. That character, it really kind of provides such a break, like you said, the levity from the kind of really darker elements, and I think that's very much needed and welcomed.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I think those moments of levity do balance it out, because I think this season did need to go darker, and that reveal at the end with that all those inmates, that their deaths had been faked and that they'd been tortured all this time. I think it's about 20 years they've been in there.
It's very dark.
It's very dark, but I think the show does kind of tread a fine line there, and it does balance it quite well, so that it's very Tim Burton-esque in the best way, I think.
Yes, always accompanied by a great Danny Elfman score as well, so that always helps.
Exactly.
Speaking of other inmates, we need to talk about Slurp, the zombie storyline. Obviously, earlier in the season, we see him discovered by Pugsley, who sort of takes him in almost a bit like a pet initially, particularly when he's very much decomposed and is very much not resembling a human at all, to be honest. And then obviously Eugene gets dragged into it, so they're both kind of like almost like smuggling Slurp around, but then obviously eventually Slurp escapes, and we get some quite gruesome kills from Slurp before Slurp also ends up in the institution. How do you think that was handled? I think I personally am still waiting for it to have like consequence.
I'm already tired of Slurp. I'm so sorry. I'm tired of him. I was really excited for Pugsley to come to Nevermore. I think he could be, a really interesting character, but he's just been tied to this kind of one thing that has been dragging on. The only thing I did find quite interesting was when Slurp encounters Augustus, he calls him old friend. We obviously, it's a man of few words, is Slurp. But we do hear him say old friend sort of quite indistinctly at the end there, but it clearly
there's history, there's a plot there. Slurp needs a plot, I feel, because so far it has just been sort of like, again, a little bit comedic, a bit gruesome, not much else to it.
I'm just not sure we needed it 4 times over, but I think now is the time when hopefully it's going to start getting a bit more interesting when we learn about who he was.
And like you said about Pugsley as well, that also kind of would hopefully help bring him into the main plot, because I also feel like Pugsley and Wednesday, aside from being iconic characters from previous Addams Family media, in this show alone have quite an interesting little dynamic.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to explore that a lot more. Speaking of little, Pugsley and Eugene both had like growth spurts between seasons.
That's the trouble when you leave it this long to,
with
to
child
release
actors.
your season 2.
Yeah, like they're going to look very old in comparison. I mean, not obviously decrepit, but there we go.
But there was that hint, sort of, well, that little conversation when they were in the car about Pugsley, you know, struggling with his powers, and that's just not really been explored loads yet either. So yeah, I'd like him to have a little bit more of something to do.
Yeah, involvement. Yeah, get him involved with Wednesday.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wednesday's always got her little team of allies as it stands, so it just feels like it'd be natural to kind of bring him into that fold a little bit more.
And considering Morticia's at Nevermore at the minute as well, I would love to see like a family kind of alliance at some point.
While we're just discussing all the Addams Family presence this series, I feel like this has really expanded their role in a really good way. Obviously, we've got Catherine Zeta-Jones is in the main cast now, so she was previously just a guest star, which feels really strong. Obviously, they're iconic characters. There's a lot of iconography that comes with them. People will just immediately recognise them if they see them in posters and trailers. But also, it just adds a whole new dynamic to proceedings. If you feel like, how do you feel with the addition of more Morticia and Gomez and the rest of the family?
I love it. I think they're just all such, as you say, they're all such brilliant actors. Their dynamics with each other, I think, are so interesting, so different. You know, that dynamic between Gomez and Pugsley, and particularly, I think the women in the family.
Yes.
That kind of fractured bond between Morticia and Wednesday, and then we see even more of that because of the introduction of Grandmama.
Hester, played by the fabulous Joanna Lumley, not doing her usual accent.
No, I was surprised, but I like it.
And a very interesting, a bit transatlantic,
yeah.
But that kind of fits with Morticia's as well, because she's got quite a distinctive vocal range, we say, when speaking. So I definitely think that's probably a good choice. But Hester, great character. I mean, obviously we've only had one episode of her so far.
Yeah, I feel like she's made such a mark already, though, and I love, just seeing how her relationship with Morticia has affected Morticia as a mother, and how she has her own problems with Wednesday. I just think, the mother-daughter relationships in this series, you know, you could talk about it for ages, you know. I think they're brilliant.
And it definitely needs to be expanded upon more. Like, there's obviously some toxic dynamics going on, which is interesting, and I feel like, I mean, we've teased that obviously they want, the school wants Hester to be donating and getting involved, so it feels like that's the natural space for her to kind of have more appearances. But I feel like if she goes down as well as we've liked, let us know. But generally, I imagine she'll be quite popular. Could we see even more of her in the next season? Because obviously we've had the third season already confirmed.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I feel like they might expand it.
Yeah, and recently Joanna Lumley did say that the role was expanded beyond what she first thought. So potentially there's room to carry that on. I definitely think so. Yeah,
and great outfit and look as well.
Just campus out. What more could you want from Joanna Lumley?
But also, it's it's a bit different, the character, in terms of the origins of the Grandmama character. If you could fill us in a little bit on the Addams Family,
the lore,
the mythology.
Well, as far as I understand it, there was the Addams Family. They have two sort of these matriarchs who for the series have been combined into the Joanna Lumley character. So on Gomez's side, it is Grandmama, which seems to be the name that they're now giving to Joanna Lumley's character, and Granny, who is Morticia's mum. Also, the character, maybe when casting Joanna Lumley, has been made a lot more glam. Yeah. So it just makes it quite a different dynamic, I think. There's maybe a bit more of a competitiveness between Morticia and her mother that maybe wasn't there in other mediums. I just like that they've done something a bit different with it.
And it makes sense. Obviously, the show's Wednesday. It's very much steeped in kind of the female characters and the female relationships. Obviously, the Morticia relationship's the most important one into the show with Wednesday. So it makes sense that they're mirroring that with Hester.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about new characters, let's unpack a few of the others. Obviously, we have the magnificent Steve Buscemi as Principal Dort, who's replacing the late Weems. Who do you think he's going to kind of be interacting with more going ahead? So far, we've seen him a lot with Bianca.
Yeah. Finding that very menacing, that sort of dynamic. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a slow burn, that bit so far for him. I do hope, I would like to see him maybe last beyond this season because it has been a bit of a slow burn. And also, obviously, we lost Weems at the end of last season. I don't really like the idea of maybe it just being, here's a new head teacher every season, like because they're villainous or they get murdered or something. So it'd be nice to see that explored more. But yeah, what do you think make of him so far?
I think he does it really well. I really like him. I really like the kind of balance he draws between the comedy and then those moments where he gets really sinister and threatening. I think he does that absolutely brilliantly. Yeah, I really like the dynamic with Wednesday, the way he clearly wants her to be, you know, a face for the school and a figure to be, you know, loved, and she absolutely rejects that at every turn.
No, there's definitely some really funny scenes, I think, particularly when with her speech in the earlier episode, which she totally destroys any heroic images that people might have of her. Also, I enjoyed that you mentioned the comedy that he played into "How do you do, fellow kids" meme a bit with some of his lines there, explaining slang and acronyms to Wednesday, which was quite cute. So I feel like that was quite witty.
He knows his brand.
he knows what he's doing. Does Buscemi? We're also introduced to Bruno.
Yeah.
Who is Enid's new love interest. Obviously, she was already in a relationship, so it's created a love triangle. But what do you think of his character? I'm generally just feel like he's a plot device.
Yeah, he's not been given much to do, has he, beyond just being, you know, as you say, a plot device for Enid and that love triangle. I mean, it's tricky, isn't it, with a show like this where you've got such a huge cast. You've got to give everyone a bit of time to shine. Naturally, I think there will be a bit less time on certain characters. Again, maybe it's something we could see more of in the second part.
I hope we see more of the werewolf stuff generally, because obviously we've been shown that Enid's in this pack now, but so far it's helped her to gain confidence, but we've not really seen much more of those dynamics beyond just the fact that she's with Bruno and it's caused a bit of an upset. Yeah,
there was that mention when they were both nearly killed by Wednesday's stalker that he's also been struggling. He's been a bit of a late bloomer with the whole werewolf thing, which she can very much relate to. So I wonder if there's going to be a bit more of that in the second part of the season. But just haven't really seen that much of him, have we?
No, there's something more to explore, and I think he's not the only character that's been a little bit underserved so far. We've got to talk about the magnificent Billie Piper joining the cast as Isadora Capri. Fantastic name of a character. Also another werewolf, which hasn't really been explored yet.
Yeah, supposedly she's meant to be a bit more of a mentor to Enid, which I'm looking forward to, but I don't think has really been shown
so far at all. But yeah, I feel like so far there was the sense that she was a bit of a red herring, which was definitely something that they did with multiple cast members in the first season. Was they were probably their primary purpose was to be a red herring of like, are they the secret villain?
Yeah.
So it felt a little bit like they're doing that again. But now that mystery's been wrapped up quite quickly, and so hopefully the role of red herring is kind of used up. We could actually see what her purpose is.
Yeah, I think. It seems like she's taken on a bit of a mentor role. Also for Wednesday, in terms of you know, there's a brilliant scene between Billy and Jenna where they're talking about music and Wednesday's making all these cutting remarks, and Isadora's just hitting right back. So it's clear that she kind of can take Wednesday's sark and things like that.
Well, a bit like Wednesday, she was supposed to have been like a child prodigy, so maybe she can have a bit of a volley with her, even more so, I think, in the later episodes. We also got treated to a return to Billy's music career with these episodes, which is nice. And we definitely, Tim Burton knows how to weave his music in very well in his properties. This feels like another expert use here, particularly with the duet with Catherine Zeta-Jones, also returning to music.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be. It's a brilliant soundtrack this season, and I love the kind of the addition of the original songs. We know Lady Gaga's got one coming out. I think it feels really natural to kind of add in some songs like that.
Yeah, and speaking of Lady Gaga, we know that she's going to be playing a legendary teacher from the history. From the history of Nevermore. We don't know, is she a living teacher or is she a dead teacher? Which also kind of brings us back to the spirit guide discussion a bit earlier. Obviously, we talked about maybe it could be Aphilia could be kind of a spiritual guide, but maybe not actually a spirit guide. Who else could the spirit guide be if it is going to be a dead character, though? Could it be Lady Gaga?
That would be iconic, wouldn't it?
And it also might make more sense to maybe introduce a bit more of a musical element if they're going to include the song in a way that's diegetic and in the show.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know. I'm hoping it's not just going to be. I'm hoping she's tied into it in a kind of nice, natural way. I think she was only on set for about a day, so we can't expect a huge role.
Hi, I'm
her.
a legendary teacher, and now I'm your spirit guide for a single episode.
Yes, exactly. I'm hoping it's a little bit more than just kind of a little cameo. But you know, she is a bit scene stealing, isn't she? I mean, she'll make her mark.
Gaga, I mean, the little monsters will eat it up, whatever she does. But
glorious,
yeah, she'll make a big impact.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't Lady Gaga, who else could it be? I was considering, could we see a return appearance from Gwendolyn Christie as Weems? Because obviously, as a character, she was a bit short-lived, didn't really serve as much of a purpose as perhaps she could have done, because she was essentially a red herring for the villain of the first series. So that could be an opportunity, especially if Wednesday is dead and maybe needs a bit of a nudge back to the real world.
Another possibility, maybe just another member of the Addams family, another ancestor. Obviously, Goody knew Wednesday kind of inside out through that kind of familial bond.
And also was played by Jenna Ortega, so...
Exactly. I mean, not to be too morbid, if Aphilia doesn't... meets her demise at some point soon. Maybe that's a role she could play.
That would definitely make sense. I think in terms of the second half of the season, we've already spoken about a few things we think could come up and could play a role, but a big thing for Wednesday was the vision with Enid's death seemingly being confirmed. Straight up, do we think Enid's actually going to die?
No, it would be very bold of the show to kill off Enid. I would respect it, but I would be a bit annoyed if they're killing off Enid.
Yeah, I can't see it happening. I also feel like the show, in terms of like the production for the season, what they've been speaking about it, a lot of people involved have said it's very much going to be centred on friendships, and particularly Wednesday and Enid's friendship, and probably less on the romance. Obviously, Wednesday had a bit of a love triangle in the first season, and romance seems to be out the window so far this season for her.
I mean, there's still the Wednesday Enid shippers. There's still...
Yeah.
It could happen.
It could happen. So... if that's going to take focus, and obviously it is the main thing driving Wednesday is that she's trying to avoid that happening.
Yeah.
It feels like they wouldn't really want to ruin that relationship. No, it's one of the ones with the most development as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping it'll bring them closer together. I mean, the inevitability is gonna be that Enid's gonna find out at some stage. You know, Wednesday can't hide this from her forever.
Yeah, and they're like the Glinda and Elphaba of Wednesdays, so they need to kind of make sure that they're still a pairing and that they stay together.
Yeah, I certainly think Enid's in danger, so I'm interested to see where that takes her, and if Wednesday's inadvertently putting her in more danger by not telling her about the vision, what's going to happen, kind of considering that Wednesday is still struggling with her psychic ability. She's clearly unable to, you know, have any more visions at the minute, and sort of prevent anything terrible from happening at the minute, so
which I think creates a bit more jeopardy as well, because also I feel like that could get a bit old quite fast if they're constantly having these, you know, shots of things that we're going to see in a few minutes anyway. So I think that's quite welcome. But yeah, I'd be surprised. I can't see her being offed. Overlooking the rest of the series so far, what is your main hope for the second part of season 2? I'm just generally hoping for more Joanne Lumley.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I think I would love the underserviced characters to get a bit more time to shine. I'm hoping for a bit more from Pugsley. I'm hoping, just as a Billie Piper stan, that she...
We all need more Billie Piper. And more Billie Piper singing.
Yeah,
maybe Tim Burton just loves her pop career like the rest of us.
And why not?
If you don't,
and why
not? So we need to just get more singing from her in the second half of it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate it's a tricky thing to balance, giving all of the characters their time to shine. But yeah, a bit more Pugsley and a bit more Isadora for me, thank you.
Great name still, so
yeah.
I hope we get that.